Welcome to the Encourager Podcast. I'm Rebekah Scott. I own Rebekah Scott Designs, where I am the designer and the CEO. I believe that if you desire an active, impactful role in your children's lives while simultaneously wanting to provide an income for your family, then being a mompreneur is exactly what you need to work at home. The Encourager Podcast is my way of inspiring and motivating you with insightful knowledge, tips, and advice from myself and other successful working women who put their families first. So let's take action and encourage one another. It's official. My book, Equipped to Execute, Guiding Moms to Joyfully Impact Their Families and Business, is available on Amazon.com and on my website, equippedtoexecute.com. You no longer need to pre-order. I'm staring at the books in my studio. It's so exciting. But if you could be so kind, if you do order from Amazon.com, to leave me a review. These are really important in the book industry, and I'm learning all about it, and it's been a great joy to learn everything I can. So go ahead and leave me a review if you'd be so kind on the Amazon.com, and check out my website for the other offers that were available with the pre-orders, such as my backpack, the Leah, super cute, and the wristlet for summer when you're out and about. So take a peek and order the book, Equipped to Execute. Thank you, encouragers. Hello, encouragers. I have a super fun episode today because you guys have been super active on our Facebook community and asking questions about your own business and your own life and trying to do all your roles awesomely. And one of the questions was, how do you grow a business? And it's a very broad question, but I thought of two people that have really amped up my own business. And to be frank, I had 38.7% growth last year, and a lot of that was because of these two awesome people. So I thought, well, they're the ones that will help me answer, how do you grow a business? So I'm going to introduce Lauren and Clint Brown. So
how's it going?
Tell us about yourselves.
Hey.
Lauren, you get to go first.
I am, I'm not South Dakota born. I was born in Wisconsin, but truly grew up in South Dakota in Sioux Falls. Am a Midwestern girl at heart, but my family is just from all over, which is super fun because I've, been raised in the South and been raised in the Northeast and have my Midwestern roots. So I have seen a lot of businesses grow certainly in different stages. My grandfather, and I was just talking to him about this past summer. But my grandfather is truly the start of entrepreneurship in our family. And I didn't even realize, growing up, how many businesses he had his hands in. So that's been fun to kind of discover myself. But raised in the Midwest, and I don't know, what else
She's
do you
amazing.
want to know?
She helps me with the COGS of my business, so that's the cost of goods sold. So last summer, we spent a lot of time with her in a chair geeking out on a computer. And I was like, I could not think of anything worse to do than that. But then I realized, as much as I love to spend time in my fabric closet, just putting things together, that is her in spreadsheets. That's how I
love spreadsheets. Absolutely.
But just because she's a geek doesn't mean she was fun. So I was also super relieved that you are super normal and fun, because I was like, ooh, is this going to be weird with her in my space? Not at all. So that's what I would say for Lauren. And then Clint, tell us about you.
Hi, my name's Clint, and I live in Sioux Falls with my wife and 4 children. My kids are about roughly the same age as Becca's kids.
Same combination.
Same combo, strangely enough.
1 boy, 3 girls.
My wife has known Becca and her husband Nick for a very long time. And so there's some old family history there, church camps or something,
Yes.
Being all South Dakota kids.
Yes.
I've had the privilege of helping Becca grow her awesome little business for the last couple of years in different capacities.
And his wife is who I contact for pretty much all things motherhood. If I'm like, ooh, what would Katie say now? I think of Katie. She's very all natural in the way that she raises her family. She's the one that got me on the red dye, that introduced me to how that alters your children drastically, and potty training and sleep methods and nursing and you name it. And she met my mom through church ministry. She was a pastor for a while, and that's when I met Clint when I was 17. He thought I was crazy then. Now I'm just a more organized crazy.
It's confirmed.
Yeah. And I'm super excited to have them be a part of my business. They act as consultants for me in their business, and we'll be sure that they can plug whatever they would like to afterwards here. Their business is called Alluvio, and I highly recommend them. It's been great for business. So going back to the question is, how do you grow a business? Clint, we're just going to open it up, and then I will make you hone in because he's a very matter of fact, here's how it is. So I'll ask the questions that hopefully you are naturally thinking. So what if I'm just in the first year of business and I've got some momentum, I've got a customer base, and I'm grossing like $1,200 to $5,000 a month? What would you say if it's to amp it up that much more?
I think no matter what size you're at, you need to know who your customers are and where to find more of them. I mean, your business is going to grow because you're going to have more customers, or your existing customers are going to buy more product. Mm-hmm. Either way, you need to know those people. And I think one thing about you, Becca, that's really nice for us as far as a client goes is that you do belly-to-belly sales with your customers throughout the year in shows.
Yeah. It
keeps you really in tune with the language and the likes and what do they touch, and they like this color fabric and they wear the purse this way. You have a really good sense of how people engage your product, which empowers you to say, oh no, I know my customer and they would want this.
Yeah.
And so I think if most businesses, I find they know about their customer, but they don't know their customer. And there's a big difference. For instance, your husband, he and I, though we get along great, we rarely ever see each other.
Right.
In total, I've never spent 12 hours with your husband. Right. In our whole relationship. So I know about your husband.
Okay.
Right. But you know him.
Yes.
Right. And so all the nuances, you would know how much spaghetti he wanted on his plate, or if those are the boots that he likes, or does he fill up his truck with gas too often, or all the stuff when you know somebody. And I think what's nice about your business and the length of time you've been doing it is you really do know your customers. Now, some of them, you literally actually know them really, really well. But as a whole, you also know them. You would know the quirks about, oh, they wouldn't want this kind of zipper, or this doesn't meet the needs of moms, which you in particular sell to. And so I think that if I get my hands on anybody's business to help them, one of the first questions we're asking is, talk to us about your customers. More often than not, they know about them. They'll say it's women who are about 40 years old.
The demographics.
They give us demographic information. That's not interesting. I could guess that. My children could guess that. You sell purses. I'm going to guess you're,
Yes.
But so if you know them, then you can go find more of them. And I think that's, once you know them, then finding them's a lot easier. Serving them's a lot easier. Yeah. Marketing to them, putting stuff on Instagram's easier.
So to know your customer more, then what should we be doing? More surveys, or more just literally, I call it answering the phone. Mm-hmm. Do your own customer service, answer the phone, and find out what the problems are. Don't be afraid of what they're going to say, because they don't mean it mean-spirited, but find out what they want from you that you aren't giving them.
Lauren and I were just in Chicago, and we had a company that asked to work with us. And one of the things we asked them was, how quickly could you get us in front of one of your customers? Or how quickly could we meet your customers? If I can, I want to actually meet the real human being who actually gave you money for that product and say, why'd you buy this? Where'd you find out about us? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Because it's just raw, like you're saying, and you can't judge it. Or they might say, this is a fashion statement. I got it just for fashion.
Okay.
Fine, whatever that is.
And I think, your customers, especially when you are genuine about asking them, they will know that, and they will be honest with you. I think very rarely you would have, where they just want to be polite. If you're telling them specifically why you're asking, they'll give you honest feedback.
Yes. So then let's just go about the business of finding more of them. I mean, if here in South Dakota, I don't know where you're listening to this, but hunting is a big thing here. And if you're to hunt for a particular species of animal, you have to learn everything about that. Or the more you know, the better chance you are that you're going to get a deer or a pheasant or a turkey or whatever it is you're hunting for. You would not just go roam around a field and hope to shoot something that moves. You're going to get someone's cow or shoot your brother. Yep. And so in hunting, that makes total sense. You would say, of course, I need to learn all about this so that I can go, do they eat in the morning? Do they, we learn all that sort of stuff. But then in business, somehow, I think particularly with makers, and I don't know how much of your audience is makers, they're really passionate about their craft, using their hands, being in their studio, their space, their workshop. And they're sort of anxious when they're actually selling.
Yeah.
it's sort of a nervous experience. They might say that I can sell my friends' products better than I can sell my
All
own.
the time.
And so they have to kind of get over that fear and say, okay, if in one way that I ask it, and if someone on the podcast were to ask me, I'd say, you describe a customer so well to me that I know who it is in my phone. Because statistically, they're there.
Oh, okay.
Right? I've got, I don't know, 1,000 contacts in my phone. You, Becca, should be able to describe your ideal customer or your target audience to me enough that I could look at my phone and be like, oh, this lady, more than their age. I don't know how old they are, more than if they have money. I don't know which people on my phone have disposable income or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I think you do a good job of that. Your team does a good job of that.
And I think, too, as long as we're talking about growth and knowing the customer, especially as makers, we collect the money, and then we're so nervous that they're going to ask for the money back because we still don't have enough confidence to back up our own product. So you've got to get over that hump of they'll spend the dollars, they love the product, they want to own it, and get over thinking that they're going to return it or whatever and start asking the questions, to start answering the phone.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think, Becca, even to that point, it's having confidence in your craft. Like you said, not just confidence in the product, but you have, and this is going back to my nerdiness of knowing your numbers. If you have so much time and effort and actual product and material into something, you can assign a cost to it, a value to it, and no one can dispute that. No one can argue that and say your time is not worth that. Or, and then, by actually pricing it above that, where you have some margin or some room to make money and profitability, which is not a dirty word.
Right.
That's you making a living for your family. And no one's going to argue with that. Right. No one's going to say, no, I want a discount so you can't feed your kids.
Yes, which I did not think Lauren would teach me so much about the business end of that. I thought she was going to teach me about how much the buckle cost and the yard of fabric cost. But she ended up teaching me a lot about branding myself and owning the value that I've brought to the product, not just in the materials, which was a whole new subject. But we do need to record a podcast on self-worth and why I had to go to therapy. Okay.
That could be a season.
I know. It could totally be its own series. This is a good question that might be a little tricky, but I know both of you can answer this, is how much do we reinvest into the business? So I think what she was getting at is, like for me, I go to a show and I make X amount of dollars and I'm like, sweet. Okay, what do I spend on fabric again? And then how much do I pay myself? And then do I buy some Facebook ads? How do you know those percentages or those amounts?
Well, a lot of it, I guess, there's very many factors. I guess one of the factors would be where are you comfortable. Some people are more risky as business owners than others, and so they feel more comfortable spending money on things that grow the business. Reinvesting in the business does not mean buying more fabric to make more product. Just as a clarification, that's just doing business. Reinvesting would be taking money that you could take home and instead buying a piece of equipment.
Correct.
So just for those of you who are, if you go to a show and you make $5,000, but it costs you $5,000 to make the product there, you may not have made any money. You may have just traded your product for the dollars.
Yeah.
And you're sort of starting over. So I would take the money and make more product, obviously. But how much do you take for yourself? Typically, a business owner, though, this is not going to take more than about 5% or 10% of their total business annually. Mm-hmm. So if your business only makes $100,000, you might only actually have about $5,000 or $10,000 to take out of the business. Mm-hmm. If not, you may need to get a better handle on where your money's going. Mm-hmm. As your business grows, you might get more profitable, where it might bring you 20% out of the business. Mm-hmm. But if the biggest construction company in town, if you were to go call them, they're probably walking away with 9% of a big job. And that could be a $100 million company. And so I think what happens is you think that you're making a lot of money because you're getting the cash from the show. Mm-hmm. But most of that money is to go to make more product for the next show or to sell online or whatever. Yep. It's just simple numbers. I think if I just had to totally wing it and someone asked me in public, I would say pay yourself 5% commission of every show. Just take it home in cash. Yeah. And I would set aside another 5% to market the next show. Yeah. Just like a savings account almost. I mean, if you made $1,000 I would stick $50 in my pocket to take home to my family, and I would set aside $50 on Facebook just as for starters.
Yep.
The other $950, I would say, okay, how much product do we need to buy to make the next round?
Because that's super helpful. They just want like a hard number, like, okay, I'm just going to try this.
And I will tell you, I find that if you don't get to take home any play money, you get super discouraged.
Yeah.
Super discouraged.
Because it's a mindset thing.
My mom has this rule, which I don't think I've even shared with you, and she told us all the time growing up, was her $150 rule. When you have $150 in your pocket, you always feel like you got enough money for a mocha or a hamburger or a pair of shoes on the fly.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And when you don't have $150, when you cannot come up with $150, but you need it for groceries or for gas, whatever, you feel like you're broke is a joke. And try it out sometime. If you think about when do you feel like you can just spend money and it's of no consequence. So I would say if you do a successful show and you could pocket $50 or $100, it gives you that reward, but then have that as your reward for doing a successful show. Because if you hired a salesperson, they're going to get a commission. No matter what. Are that salesperson. Give yourself that commission. But have that little bit of pocket money where you feel like I'm working my tail off, but I can still grab lunch with a friend if I want to.
Absolutely.
Or go to the salon if I want to, and not be like a big burden on my family.
Yeah, because if you do not pause and either celebrate it with monetary, or even if that's not an option, which it should be, like Clint said, we're talking $50, okay? If you don't, then you are telling your subconscious you haven't arrived. And so you just keep pedaling and working in the business instead of like what Alluvio helps me to do is work on the business. So you need to pause, spend whatever that is, and pocket and pay yourself whatever that is to tell your subconscious, we're making it. We're doing this.
I have little treats that I sort of bait myself with. So I'll say,
me too. KitchenAid appliances and Rebekah Scott purses. That's what I recommend.
Whatever lights your fire for me, if I know that like I want to, even if I play stupid games, maybe it's my accounts receivable are out and I need to collect money that's owed to us from clients or whatever. I'll say, if you hit this number by the end of the week, then you can... I don't buy things. I'm not one to buy a bunch of stuff. But I will go take a friend out to dinner that I haven't seen in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Or something that is valuable to me.
Yes.
And I just reward myself with that. But I think if I could say anything, just pocket some of the cash. And you're probably going to make some cash at a show, actual cash and not credit card transactions.
Could you repeat what those figures were that you said to pay yourself and then to put back in?
I would do 5 and 5. I would just pocket. I would straight up pocket 5%.
Okay, pocket 5% and
5% just put in a cookie jar or mentally set it aside for marketing your next show or your next thing.
And that could look different if you are retail or client based or customer based. Do it once a week or per deposit. I do per deposit.
Yeah, and if you're looking at growing your business, try and think about that 5% being how am I acquiring more customers?
Yes.
So maybe that is doing business development, like attending paying the booth fee at a new show. Yep. And because then it's less risky. So if you've set aside that money and you've said to yourself, like, I'm going to try this new thing. It might not work, but it's at least if it doesn't work, it's not stressing out the business's finances. So I've saved up this money. If I get any positive things out of it, that's great. It's all plus. If it doesn't go that well, then, that's lesson learned.
It's sort of a past, present, and future mentality. I mean, if you take 5%, let's just make the numbers round. Like, so let's say you made $100 and you pay yourself $5. That's $5 for the past. You're rewarding yourself for a day's hard work at the show or 3 days or whatever it took you to do. The present is the 90%. Because you got to presently run the business.
Yep.
And the future is that next $5 that you take and you're buying future access to new customers, new blood. So I would start there.
Those are excellent starting points.
I would start there. And then if you think that what you're doing is, if you think you're big enough and that's too much money and it's messy with taxes, is probably you're at the size that you should call your accountant and say, I had this really simple formula for paying myself, but now the business makes $400,000 a year and that seems to be off. Then ask them. Yep. But if you're under 100,000 in revenue, that's pretty simple.
Pretty good figures.
Simple little formula.
Love it. So we've touched on this a little bit, but how do you grow your customer base? But I think, you talked about it in the beginning, is you got to go where they are and then multiply it. Mm-hmm. So I have done so many different models since when I first started 13 years ago. I did the trunk shows because that was a big thing, and now women just don't commit to, going to a girlfriend's house and having a glass of wine. I wish we did, but
we need to treat ourselves.
We need to go back to that and burp the Tupperware lids like we used to, but we don't do that as much anymore. So I've changed to going more e-commerce and on my website. And how do you recommend just focusing on customers, building a customer base?
It's what comes to mind, and this may seem a little out of left field, but I think I can tie it back for you. Mothers in particular all have a gear to solve problems, especially when it comes to their kids' well-being. Let me give you, for instance, if one of your 4 children was sick and needed a kidney, and they said, you need to find a donor who has this blood type. My guess is you, Becca, have a gear that says, I can call people literally around the clock.
Yes.
Every person I've ever met, ever gone to church with, ever went to high school with, everybody up on Facebook, every phone number I can get my hands on, I will call every phone number until I find the match.
Yeah.
So all moms seem to have this gear. Like if they got to find it, they'll find it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can access part of that gear for customers, and the nice thing the doctor did there for you is give you something specific. You need to have someone with this blood type. Again, get back to know your customers. If you can identify your customers well enough and say, they're out there in the world. There's 7 billion people on the planet. It's a good chance some of them are out there. And I'm going to do what it takes to go find them. If I got to drive another state over to be in the state fair, or if I've got to join a Facebook group, or my customers are off of Craigslist, or they're at a craft show, or whatever their thing is, I think people try one strategy expecting to make all their money. They don't. They give up.
Can't do it.
That would be like a mother calling one person. The person says, no, I'm the wrong blood type. And the mom will go, well, kid's going to die. I tried. I made a phone call, and they're not out there. That's irrational as a mom.
Yes.
But business owners play that game all the time. I cannot tell you. I sat with a business owner this morning who has a single point of failure strategy, meaning, which is single point of failure means I'm going to try this one thing, and if it fails, the whole thing fails. Right? There's a single moment, a single thing that can bring down the whole system.
Determined. Yep.
Okay.
And she said, I'm going to do this show, and I'm going to have this thing, and it's going to go to the website, and that's how I'm going to make my money. And I just said, well, what if the first thing doesn't work? She's like, oh, it will. Well, no, that's...
But what if it doesn't?
No, but you don't have a track record. Like, if you've done it 1,000 times, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, have a mix. Lauren and I draw out on a sheet of paper, and then I'll shut up and tell them whatever you want to tell them, Lauren. But we have this 10 by 10 little chart we draw, for those of you who like charts. So I'll get a spreadsheet out with 100 cells in it, 10 columns across, 10 rows down. And the 10 columns across are 10 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just week 1, week 2, week 3. And going down the 10 rows on the left are 10 strategies to get in front of new customers. Ooh. And so on the first row, maybe it is joining Facebook groups. Okay. So maybe you join 2 Facebook groups and post, and you get 1 customer. You mark that in your first little box.
Under week 1.
Under week 1, column 1 for the first week. And maybe in the first week you also do a home party, or maybe you some other sort of method for growing your business. Yep. Then you can see over time which of your strategies are working, but it also encourages you to do 10.
And you know how I feel about tracking encouragers. That is brilliant.
Yeah, so I think that most people just don't do enough. It's not that they're not out there, but you...
And part of that is fear-based and mindset, but part of that is just like, if you have 10 different approaches, chances are 2 are going to work, and then you've got something
But the fear goes away, because what if... I wish those of you who are listening were here. When I told Becca that she had a sick kid and she would have to make phone calls to help find that, she did not have a fearful posture. It was like, give me the phone.
Yeah, she nearly reached for her phone.
Right? So you have that gear. If you felt yourself empowered by saying, oh, I could crush that, I could find a donor in 7 minutes. You've got that gear inside you. It's just when are you choosing to access it? And so go, it's for your business. It's for, maybe it provides for your family. Like, go find that gear.
It's the one that you can tell your husband, look what I did. You know, when they're like, you're going to do what? For how much? For how long? This is that trackable thing that I talk about in the book. This is how you're going to prove to all your friends and family who don't think, how's that little bag business going? This is a trackable thing that you'll be able to, good. These 2 things are really working for me.
Yeah. And I think with that too, I absolutely love this method, but you could even take it one step further as far as how much time are you spending on each of those things? Because if you're getting the same return for something you spend 2 minutes updating a status every 7 days versus something that you spend 20 hours on. I mean, you need to be empowered by knowing where your time goes and what happens if you then spend 4 minutes doing it. You know, do your numbers double? Do they increase? Do you see a difference? You know, where are you spending your time in doing that? But, you know, I think one of those things in growing your customer base that you can add to that charter, that you can add to that list is asking your current customer base for referrals. Who, you know, going back to Clint saying, you know, I can tell someone in my phone right now, well, if your customers, your clients are satisfied with what you're doing, you're empowering them to provide a solution or to provide an awesome product or service to one of their friends by asking for a referral. And you would be surprised the number of people who, when you ask them for a referral at the point of purchase, not, you know, 4 weeks later when they are sitting on their front porch reminiscing about the product or service, but they're validating their purchase by telling someone else that they made a purchase and telling them they should also do that.
Yep.
So
this is why people take a selfie when they're at a new favorite restaurant and post it to Facebook right there. Yes. Because that's the moment they're saying they want the most justification for making that decision. They feel the best about it, so they're going to tell the world hoping to get the best feedback. Okay. And it goes down after that, even though it's not intuitive.
That's why you and your girlfriend might get a product in the same booth because you're validating each other's purchase.
Yeah, I would say throw your shoulders back and own it, because that's half of it is they just feel that much more confident. And also on that grow customer base, I have a freaky memory where it's kind of creeperish, where I know what the gal bought 5 years ago and the style and the fabric.
That doesn't surprise me.
And whoever is working the booth with me will, like, especially my twin sister is like, don't tell them, it's super creepy, Becca. I'm like, oh, you mean? I'm like, oh yeah, remember that person? And we ended up changing the line and you sent it back and then we put that cute purple one and they like look at me with their jaw dropped. So what I'm getting at is don't get there. That's just how my weird fabric brain works. But do know your customer in that you write notes. Like after I take a custom order, I write notes about what they told me about their family, if they were expecting another baby and they had one, or if they're entering toddlerhood, if they're like, oh my gosh, forgive my toddler in the background, we're potty training. I write that down because then I know the customer and then they feel a connection with me and I'm more likely to get their sister and their mom and them to buy again. So I don't do it just in a sales point of view. Obviously, you know a little bit about me now. I love to develop these relationships and be serving them and rather than selling them. And that's a whole nother subject. But write down detailed notes from your events or your client meetings or whatever it is to know that customer as much as possible, which goes to the first question, what Clint was talking about, know where they are and know who they are. That will help with growing the base.
And absolutely, I would take the time to refer back to those. So going back to this chart, add client notes or referencing client notes as one of your tactics and spend 30 minutes, an hour, maybe writing a anniversary card to someone that you know has something going on, or a congratulations card, or whatever it is.
When you're talking about adding extra things, like if I do a repair on a purse, thankfully, blessedly, it doesn't happen that often, but we're human. We provide an extra product. So we put a key fob in there because that customer goes, wow, that was really cool. It was totally my fault for using the purse for 5 years and not, whatever. But that grows our customer base because they're like, their customer service rocks. And that speaks volumes to keep growing that base, or even just a personal note. If you can't provide an extra product or an extra hour of coaching or whatever your business is, write a personal note. Man, when they see your handwriting, top notch. That will grow your customer base by leaps and bounds. Why do you think these new boutiques send a butterscotch candy in your box? Because you go, oh, that was so nice of them. And then you go in your closet and eat it. So that's a good way of growing your customer base as well. We answered 3 questions with a lot of other stuff in there. And I'm going to have these 2 back because we thought of a lot of podcast episodes while we were recording it. I can't say enough about these good people. So would you guys give these encouragers a place to go and see and study what you guys do to see if they're interested?
Yeah, follow Becca. Because
that's how you know.
That's how you know. I mean, Becca's a really ideal client to work with, and we've done it in various intensities and capacities. But we have a real heart for the maker to market space. And so we love customers who have their hands on the creation of their product and actually shake hands with their customers and they know both parts. We're online, though. We really don't do any online marketing, even though we advise on lots of it and do lots of it for our clients. Our business is so relationally driven and it's so intimate, if I can use that word, that it really does go from one good relationship to another. So we're really slow to take on clients, but it's really intense when we do. But you can go on our website, which is just Alluvio. It's ALLUV.io. There's no .com, no .net, just .io, ALLUV.io.
And explain what alluvio means, because I love this.
Alluvio is the Latin term for when a flood increases the size of your land and leaves behind rich soil. And this is if you're an attorney or you're married to an attorney, you can ask them. This is a legal term. In Bible times, in Africa, the people would pray for the Nile to flood because that's how it fertilized their land. And really, that's the only way we got fertilizer prior to modern marketing or farming practices was floods brought rich soil, new soil. In our generation, we do flood control for everything. But in businesses, I've seen too many businesses not be prepared for the success they're pursuing. And that flood of business kills them in the same way that a flood can actually kill in real life. And so if you want to flood a business, we want it to enrich and not kill. So Alluvio is the enrichment process of a flood. So, and I love flow, anything with the flow of anything. So that's our name.
I feel enriched. So
Anything else, Miss Becca?
No, just that you guys know how much I love you and you know how much you've made a difference. I'll probably get a little emotional here, but no, they just make a big difference. And what I would seek, I guess the way I would love to close this is that do not take advice from anyone you wouldn't trade places with. And I would trade places in a New York minute. First of all, Lauren gets to travel more than I ever did or would, so I'd trade places with her for sure. And I would trade places with Clint in a heartbeat, similarly, because we live similar lives with how we handle our roles that we've been blessed with. So these guys are amazing, and we will have them back on to talk about more subjects, but keep the questions coming on our Facebook, and you can leave us questions, and you can hear our background. It's summer mode here, so there's shipping and pools and sunscreen and some other funky smells, like sand and baseball and all of that. But hope this was encouraging to you, encouragers. We got this. Listen to this a couple different times because their knowledge is awesome, and I want you to be able to soak it all in. Till next time. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show so that the latest episode will always be conveniently available on your device. You can also find the show notes on my website at shoprsd.com. That's shop with R as in Rebecca, S as in Scott, and D as in designs.com. The Encourager Podcast tab is at the bottom of my website, which holds some great resources like my recommended book page, how to rate and review my podcast, and reflection guides that correspond with each episode. Each review and rating is so valuable to us. I sincerely hope you feel encouraged and empowered to tackle anything that comes your way this week. Remember to be grateful, humble, and kind. Then joy will come ushering in. Until next time on The Encourager.